It's time for predictions. Predictions for standout players of the game. It's been a hot minute, gentlemen, since we did this, and I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Craig Morgan. Who do you like on Sunday for the Arizona Cardinals?
All right. On offense, I know this isn't much of I'm not really going out on a limb here, but listen, guys, it's going to rain. It's Seattle. When I looked at my weather app last week, there were falling blue lines for 10 straight days, and there's about a 90% chance of rain at game time. Ball security, grip, slipping feet, they're all going to be issues. Jonathan Gannon said the Cardinals learned some things from the torrential downpour they faced in their joint practices in Indy. With the weather an issue, here's a simple formula for success. The Cardinals are 5-1 when James Conner has at least 100 yards from scrimmage, 1-3 when he doesn't. He has one fumble this season, but it wasn't lost. In fact, Trey McBride recovered in the end zone for a TD. The point here, good things happen with the running of the bull. James Conner's my pick on offense. On defense, and I got to give the shout out to Bo Brock for looking this up for me. You know where I'm going here, right? Nearly 87% of Jackson Smith in Jigba's routes are run from the slot. You know who patrols the slot for the Cardinals, right? The guy who's been their most consistent cornerback this season. The guy I think Johnny was shouting out on Twitter maybe today or yesterday. 2023 third-round pick Garrett Williams. This is a huge matchup in this game and a huge test for one of the brightest young pieces of this defense's future. For my X, I'm going with Barrett Browning. I know he put in a lot of time over the bye week. Other than grabbing some clothes back in Colorado, I think that's all he did. I'm not going to make any big pronouncements here for sack totals, but given where this pass rush has been, Browning has the opportunity to cement a role for himself off the edge by simply affecting the quarterback through pressures and hurries. We're not asking a lot here. The bar is low.
Sacks are not a winning stat, Craig. Jonathan Gannon said that yesterday. I don't know if you were there for that. You heard that.
I did.
I like it. So you know what? Mine mirror Craig's pretty well there because I'm with you. I let's take a look at mine. James Conner. This is everything that points to a JC day. Conner over 400 yards from scrimmage in 4 games against the Seahawks in his Cardinals career. 27th against the run. Cardinals up front, offensive line fresh to go. Maybe even the addition of Jonah Williams. They're going to be ready to go and move people. James Conner poised for a big day. So give me number 6 as my offensive star. I'm going to stick with Craig in the slot with Garrett Williams. He's been their best defensive player this year, continues to be, and he's got a big assignment as far as this Seattle Seahawks second overall passing attack. So give me G. Will. And then as far as that run game, I'm going to continue to look there with the X factor. Can Trey Benson continue his success the last 2 games that he's had for the rookie player, 3rd round out of Florida State? Can he continue to help the Cardinals ground and pound and maybe salt this game away in the second half? Give me big number 33 as my X factor.
Man, I hope it's Trey Benson because I've been waiting to write a story on him for like 5 weeks. So.
I like all your picks.
I thought about DJ Dallas in his return too, but with the coaching staff change, there wasn't enough there.
Do we feel like, and I got to get to my predictions here, but like we sleeping on Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't have Marv in my top 3. I don't know what Damon is planning on unveiling, but sometimes when we feel like they're going to go one way, they go the opposite way. So I'm just keep that in your back pocket. Take a look at my predictions again. Chalk. Chalk it up here. James Conner, the offensive star, 3 for 3. And again, it feels like Cardinals can beat you in so many different ways. And again, if the weather's all right, I've watched Kyler Murray tear it up in Chicago a couple of years ago with D-Hop. Like, I don't know. I think the mindset of this team is we're going to run the football on the road just like they did in Pittsburgh, just like they did in Philadelphia last year. But if there are opportunities in the passing game, I wouldn't be surprised if K1 had a big week. I, too, like Craig, I think we get a big game out of Baron Browning. And again, I'm not anti-Baron Browning. I would love to see him prove me wrong, get a couple sacks this week, and I'm doing something stupid on this live stream a week from now to honor his outing. But pressures aren't going to get it done. Put Geno Smith in the turf. Put him on the ground, right? The minute Nick Bosa exited that game last week, Geno Smith made himself a cup of coffee against the Niners front 7 and did whatever he wanted. It was gross. We can't allow that. Baron Browning, the target is on your back, my friend. Go out there. Xavier Thomas has looked exceptional in the last 2 weeks. Zaven Collins has 3 sacks. Those 3 guys collectively, if the Cardinals let Geno Smith go off, it's an indictment of those 3 players. And I think they get it done, led by Browning. And lastly, we talked about the big explosives that weren't there for San Francisco when we had Brian Baldinger on earlier this week. And the Juwan Jennings had a good day. Well, who does that remind me of? Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson underneath. Michael Wilson's due for a big game. Yes, Trey's going to get his. Yes, Marvin's going to go up against Evan Witherspoon. It would not surprise me at all. Michael Wilson, who did well against Seattle in the finale last year, he had almost 100 yards, his best career day, had a touchdown in that game. Would love to see part of the program, friend of the program, Michael Wilson, ball out against Seattle. I actually think it's going to happen.
Yeah, the last game we saw Michael Wilson play against Seattle in the finale, he had a great game. He almost went over 100 yards.
Yes, he did. Damon Dog, what do you got for us, my guy?
I have the upset of all upsets. You guys have never heard this one before. I'm going with Trey McBride, offensive star. That's right. I know I caught you all off guard. He continues to be the best player on this team. I'll say it week after week. He's just incredible. I don't care if it's raining. Get him the football. Target him 10 times a game. It leads to success. The best teams, we see this in the NFL recently, like last decade. The best teams tend to have the best tight ends. I don't think that's like a shock or like a coincidence, I should say. Like Gronk on the Patriots, Travis Kelce on the Chiefs. The Ravens have Mark Andrews. I mean, it really does seem to have a really positive correlation to having an elite tight end and having a good record. I'm going to continue to feed Trey McBride. For defensive star, I'm going Mac Wilson. Baldy mentioned that he thinks Kazir White will have a big day when we interviewed him on Wednesday. I'm going to stick with the linebacker core there. And honestly, I think that the receivers on the Seahawks are kind of going to get theirs. I'm not sure that anyone's going to be able to really stifle that passing attack, but I do think that there's an opportunity to completely take away their running game. And that's where my X factor comes in for Baron Browning. I think you need the Seahawks O-line is one of the worst in the league. There's opportunity to create pressure here. I'd like to see Baron Browning maybe get home on a sack, Zaven Collins as well, and get that pass rush going.
One, do you buy what Seattle was able to do coming out of the bye week? Do you believe in this defense? I know San Francisco's without like half the Pro Bowl roster in that game. Yeah. So I definitely factor that into it. But do you like what the guy I talked to, the beat writer for The Athletic said was that they were playing cleaner defense. They were in their gaps.
Sure.
And there were a lot less mistakes. This is a team that's been penalized heavily. They took one penalty in that game. Are you buying it, or is that an anomaly?
I think it's fair to ask the question with all new regimes, like, has this team like turned a corner and really embraced what Mike McDonald is preaching, specifically defensively? Like offensively, like I think they're just kind of an enigma, kind of back and forth because of how erratic Geno can be. But like, I think it's fair to like ask, like, hey, is the Seahawks defense like turning the corner? You know, they've given up a fair amount of points to teams like the Bills and, you know, the Niners in their first matchup. They gave up 29 points to Daniel Jones. But last week, Craig, to your point, like specifically their run defense was pretty good given what they've been giving up. They've gotten up on average over 150 yards per game. They were underneath that. And Purdy was relatively average, but he had a bum shoulder too. I think we will know everything we need to know about Seattle after this game. I think if the Cardinals take them to the woodshed and beat them, their season is over. And I think they'll come to State Farm Stadium and get a butt kicking there. But if they somehow beat the Cardinals, you're going to give this team new life. Like, this is who we are now. We've won 2 in a row. We're buying in. You're just going to get all those crap puff pieces on Mike McDonald. Like, don't let that happen. And this charade, they don't have a franchise quarterback. They're erratic on offense. Like, they're not any good. This is not a good team. You're better than them. You should win this game. But if they beat you, you give them false hope, Bo.
Well, what is it? Gannon says he doesn't know if momentum exists, but he knows that confidence can carry over. And, you know, getting a win like Seattle did, that can build on confidence. Even though you look at the entire picture of the game, they had six points going into halftime. They were pretty... They didn't have a whole lot going on offense going into the locker room and then throw a pick right out of to start the second half. Like, they were almost done last week. And then, you know, they score 2 out of the last 3 drives. They get into the end zone against, as you mentioned, Johnny, a Bosa-less defense. So, you know, they took advantage of that. But could they continue to, if you give them life, if you give them an opportunity to continue to get right, it's like what we saw with the Cardinals. We talk about them 2-4, dead in the water, but then they're able to get, scratch and claw their way back into these games, and you give them an opportunity, they can find their way. I think they have enough talent in order to do so. Can the Cardinals kind of keep their foot on the gas here and keep this team down? That's going to be important for Jonathan Gannon and his squad.
I just want to make a quick point here, too. The momentum killers have been the Cardinals on this recent streak. So if you go back, the Chargers were as hot as any team, and they've been hot. What's their one kind of blemish? They lost to the Cardinals, right? Then Miami, they get Tua back. We were all there, a big emotional day, right? They had the lead, lost to the Cardinals. What about the next week? The Jets beat Houston on Thursday Night Football, have 10 days off. They lose to the Cardinals. And then, of course, the Bears are the Bears. We put them aside. But, the Cardinals have done a good job taking the best right hook from these teams that come in feeling themselves. I think that they can continue. I think they pride themselves of that. Last year, they beat a very viable Pittsburgh team and a Philadelphia team at the end of the year that had everything to play for. So to me, it's just, Craig, I go back to, can this defense show up outside of State Farm Stadium? It's great that they've reestablished home field advantage at their own stadium. That's been sorely needed. And next week, they're kind of playing with house money against Minnesota, and we'll get to that. Can this defense go into Seattle and hold them to under 20 points? Because if so, they're winning this game.
Yeah. There's 2 streaks in this game. The Cardinals have lost 5 straight games to the Seahawks. Seahawks have lost 4 straight at home. I can't believe you've lost 4 straight at home, first of all, but it makes you a little uneasy thinking, really, is this going to last? One of those streaks is obviously going by the wayside. Yeah. I don't know what to think of Seattle quite yet. I know there's some people that are downplaying the fact that the 49ers had half their roster out of that game.
Yeah.
You do what you do. You win games. That's all you can do with the games on your schedule. But I can't help thinking those guys are in the lineup. This is a different story. And the Cardinals are going into Seattle.
Loss.
Yeah. And the Seattle's dead already if that happens. They're going in to face a dead team at that point.
Let's take a look at this week's prediction as we burn that graphic into oblivion here. Wow, a clean sweep for the fellas, yet your boy is going with the most robust of spreads. Tease it up, baby, with Bet365. I'm going Cardinals 28, Sea Chickens 21, in a game that is not as close as the score would indicate. I think the Cardinals are going to go in to a kind of a little bit of an irate situation with their fan base there, loud with the 12s, and I think the perfect thing to shut up the fans at, what is it, MetLife? Not MetLife, whatever their stadium's called.
Lumen Field.
Seagulf Stadium or whatever it is. How about a 12-play drive with 7 rushes from James Conner? If you remember the opening drive against Buffalo, James Conner touched the ball, I think, every single possession or every single play en route to the Michael Wilson touchdown. I think we're going to see something similar. I love the addition, Bo, that you had with your X Factor with Trey Benson. I think Trey Benson looked exceptional right before the bye. I would not be surprised if we saw an explosive touchdown run for Trey Benson. I'm not buying Seattle. I don't think they're any good. I think that this is the last week they're viable, that we have to talk about them. And I think the Cardinals win this game handily, Bo.
Huge opportunity for the Cardinals. I have them win 26-22. Maybe the final score isn't as indicative as the game. Maybe the Seahawks tack one on at the end. But yeah, the Cardinals have the opportunity to kind of keep their foot on the gas here. And as you mentioned, put one of their division foes down even further and separate themselves in the NFC West. I think that the team's focused enough. At least they've said all the right things leading in this game, Craig. So I like the Cardinals 26-22.
All right. I checked in with the great Shane Diefenbach right before I sent this score prediction. The Cards are favored by 1, and the point total is 47.5, courtesy of Bet365 and Shane Diefenbach. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm going with the Cardinals in a tight one. Might be Chad Ryland time again in this game, but I do think they win this game. And boys, if they win this game, the things we are going to be talking about, the heady things that we are going to be discussing when the Cardinals come home after a win in Seattle.